Hey everybody, Don Georgievich here, Job Interview Tools. Welcome to 7 Days to Mastering the Art of the Interview. This is Module 5, Positioning Yourself to Get the Offer. Let's get started. It's important to understand that every interview, sales presentation, or executive board meeting is fundamentally structured in the same way. You see, in most corporate meetings as well as interviews, the participants usually engage in the following process. First thing they do is establish credibility. Then they identify the objective, or whatever the desired outcome is. The third thing they do is they consider and evaluate all options and solutions. Fourth, they evaluate potential shortcomings, concerns, and they consider ways to resolve these concerns. And fifth, they implement a solution or a plan of action. So if you've ever studied the strategies of selling, you probably recognize a similar pattern in the steps of the sales process. The first thing you want to do is build rapport. Then you want to identify the needs and the desired outcome, address the needs, probe for objections, overcome any objections, and then trial close, and finally, you close the sale. Although a board meeting, a sales presentation, and employment interview may seem like three totally different scenarios, they're all very much the same. And in each situation, individuals are attempting to influence others to achieve a desired outcome. So, to successfully influence, motivate, or sell a concept, it's necessary to follow a basic sales process. And you see, the same is true for a job interview. To properly position yourself in the interview, you must engage the interviewer's mind and heart by uncovering his or her needs and identifying their hot button. So, successfully addressing the interviewer's hot buttons puts you that much closer to getting an offer, or in the sales terminology, closing the deal. But before you engage the interviewer, however, you must be properly prepared. And what we're going to talk about are the preparation steps that are required for this. Now, the first thing you want to do is build rapport and become familiar with the company that you're interviewing with. I mean, although knowing the composition of the corporate assets, the amount of debt, approximate size, and the organization, and all that other statistical data, I mean, it's important. But you see, it's more important to understand the corporate vision, the history, the culture, their values, and how that company measures success. In other words, you need to know where the company is today in its market, where it came from, how it got there, and where it wants to be in the future. And you can usually glean most of this information from the company website, corporate brochures, annual reports, investor relations, and additionally, you could look at Dun & Bradstreet and Hoover's. Those are all great sources for company information. Now, do you need to do this for every company that you interview with? Absolutely not, because if you go into every interview and restate everything that you found on their website or what you found in Dun & Bradstreet, I mean, they're just going to think something's wrong with you. But if you're familiar with some of this data, it could make for nice conversation points throughout your interview and demonstrate that you did your homework. Secondly, it's important to know your resume, your career history, and be able to tell your story. This will establish credibility. You should be able to verbalize where you've been, how you got there, and where you want to be down the road. You want to get comfortable with elaborating on your achievements as well as challenges and how you were able to overcome adversity. You might even want to role play with someone as if you were in an actual interview. Practice until you're comfortable answering specific questions regarding why you left a particular company, industry changes, or specific changes in job focus. There should be a smooth transition from one leg of your career to the next, and it should reflect some kind of sound judgment and continuous career progression. And this is where a professional recruiter or coach can be helpful to you if you're struggling in this area. Now, the third and probably most important step is to create interview questions that identify and address their needs. I can't tell you the number of times my clients have said to me that they were complimented on asking all the right questions in the interview. And that alone sealed the deal for them and they got the job. So when you ask the right questions, that sends a message loud and clear to your interviewer. Now, I have a bunch of these questions that you can ask interviewers, and they're in the complete interview answer guide. But if you do look at those questions, you don't want to ask them all. They're just there as guidelines. You only want to ask relevant questions, or maybe you want to take my questions and rephrase them so that they fit the types of companies that you're interviewing with and your background. Now, each question tells the interviewer something about you. The questions you ask and those that you don't signal your motivation, your experience, your polish, your education, your agenda, your values, attributes, strengths, and weaknesses. So consider carefully what you wish to say about yourself when you're composing questions. Your questions should be open-ended to encourage and stimulate conversation from them. This allows you to develop a chemistry and connect with your interviewer, which is really the key to getting to the next step of the interview process and ultimately getting the offer. Good open-ended questions tend to keep the interview flowing smoothly, kind of like a dance or a waltz. A good interview is like two people dancing. One usually leads, but together they complement one another. And if you do this correctly, you really can't tell who's leading whom. So in an interview, this is a natural conversation. You're asking them questions, they're asking you questions. You really don't know who's leading anymore because you're both engaged in a meaningful conversation. Interview questions should accomplish two things. First, they should express your desire to understand what that company wants to achieve. And second, they should indicate your desire to help them reach those objectives. In the early stages of the interview, it's critical that you build rapport and establish your value. And you do this by finding out what their hot buttons are. And an example of a good probing question could go like this. You could say something like, specifically, Mr. CEO, what could I do in my first year as your CFO that would exceed your expectations and meet our corporate objectives? Now, that's a powerful question and almost sounds like the guy is working there when he says our objectives. That's actually a little NLP technique. I don't know the technical term for it, but it's a gentle and subliminal suggestion that says, I already work there, and that I'm on board with everything you're doing, and getting hired, it's just a mere detail, but I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. Also notice that the question is not me-oriented. Me questions will always get you in trouble if you ask them at the wrong time. Like, you don't want to ask your dad for the car keys right after he sees the F on your report card. But on the other hand, you could probably get the car and even some spending money if you ask him, right after you paint the house or you mow the lawn. As the old saying goes, timing is everything. And in the beginning of the interview process, stay away from me questions. It's not about what's in it for you. It's about what's in it for them. The next step of the interview, and probably the most difficult, is the trial close. This will usually uncover concerns or objections that need to be addressed before closing the interview. Many individuals will fail at this juncture because they're afraid to ask the defining question. What concerns do you have regarding my ability to be an effective member of your team? Now, obviously, this question places you in somewhat of a vulnerable position, but if you don't address it, you have no way of knowing if there is a perceived objection or even where you stand with the interviewer. You see, an objection in the interviewer's mind is like a brick wall that you can't get through. Even if a perceived shortcoming is not valid, it's going to inhibit you from moving forward. Therefore, you must get the interviewer to disclose any concerns or objections that he or she may have regarding qualifications. And once all of the objections have been addressed and the interviewer is satisfied, you can move on to the final step. So you need to ask this question, but reword it and put it in your own words so that it comes out naturally and makes you feel more comfortable. Now for the close. The close requires a very direct question that reflects confidence and demonstrates your interest in going forward. Examples of effective closing questions are, what are the next steps? Are there any members of your team that you would like me to meet with? Although these questions may seem simple, you'd be surprised at how many people fail to close the interview, resulting in just an awkward ending to what could have been a successful meeting. You see, the closing question is not only direct, but it requires a response that establishes momentum. And any response from the interviewer other than, we would like you to meet the rest of the team, or we would like to go to the next step, really could be an indication that they still have concerns or issues that you need to address. It's important that you validate this response by asking for reassurance of their interest in going forward with you. If you still sense other concerns, don't be afraid to ask for clarification and proceed to probe them further. Remember, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and persistence never lost an opportunity. You see, interviewing is an art, and the best candidates don't always get hired. But if you hone your skills, you do your homework, and you implement these interview strategies, you will increase your odds of getting the offer. You see, an interview is a lot like a sales presentation or a board meeting in that it involves trying to influence others to achieve a certain outcome. And preparation is critical. And it involves both researching the company and trying to get a sense of its current position and its corporate culture. The questions that you ask send important signals about everything from your background and skills to your strengths, work habits, and potential. It's absolutely vital to uncover any perceived objections or questions and be able to explain them. Be prepared to close the deal and seek the information in the final steps. Okay, that's it for today. That wraps up this lesson. In tomorrow's lesson is called Interviewing to Take Home the Gold. And this is going to be an amazing lesson. You're going to love it. If you're not watching this video at jobinterviewtools.com, you're probably not subscribed. So head on over to jobinterviewtools.com/7days and register so you can be sure that you're getting the full program. Plus, you'll even get more resources and insights from me that I only share in email. It's all free, so you have nothing to worry about. And if you don't want to wait till tomorrow to receive the next lesson in your email, you can jump to Module 6 right now. Just share this lesson on Facebook, tweet it, or put it on Google Plus using the share buttons below, and you'll automatically jump to the next lesson. And of course, I would love to hear your comments. Have you used any of these techniques in today's lesson to position yourself for the job? What have you been doing to stand out in your interviews? Please share your story. We'd love to hear it. And I'm Don Georgievich. Stay on your game. I'm here to help you succeed so you can enjoy a prosperous career and lead a lifestyle that you love. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Hi, Don. My name is Abdul Khalfan. Just a couple of days ago, I purchased your interview answer guide. And immediately after I asked you a few questions to further prepare me for the interview, Don, in just a couple of days of being in contact with you, your prompt professional responses and valuable ones too are just amazing. I wish more folks like myself would take advantage of your knowledge, experience, and know-how. Thank you again for your advices, professional support, encouragement, and promptness. Although we have not met personally, just connecting through the website, etc., it just seems to me that we both know each other for ages. Thanks again, my best regards, and all the best to you. Thank you kindly.